Welcome to a late IHP show to our lovely future humans as we get ready for another great reset, the 5D Collective. We continue choosing love, life, and wellness. So we're the worthy ones. Well, all people can be worthy, but we're the worthy ones who know when we are feeling afraid, we have healthy fear. Anger, healthy anger. And if you tune into the other episode, you'll know why. And sadness, healthy sadness. So we are sad for all the unhealthy, insecure, immature, sick-minded human beings out there, because every time there's ascension energies, well, I'm going to let you know, with the spiritual, mystic, and human hat, as a person who knows God and Akash, Source, Anima Mundi, all of it together with the spiritual, and then I know science, what I can tell you is, well, your body, Peter Levine spells it out the best. It holds trauma charges in the muscles, bones, and tissues. So for the wellness, we are always in well-being because we have the body connected. And so with that, we have an integrated brain and a restored embodied. That's why we don't do what the self-righteous, two-faced hypocrites who are unhealthy, insecure, and emotionally speaking, though, again, let us just put a hand on our heart. As always, very sad for those who choose to not close out that which came with them from the womb to their first years of life. It's really not fun to see those who are cowards, because I appreciate the brave ones of you. I know for me, the journey to being Maria was easy because I have a twin, I have a mom, she let me be all my angry little butthole, and I got good Christian Catholic upbringing. So I have healthy fear with God, but that's also because I'm a self-agent. My mother taught me what manipulative grown-ups look like. She taught me very well, and I said, okay. She also taught me how to respect those same manipulative grown-ups, because, she taught me that respect others and differences is very important. So while I curse here, I don't curse in people's faces, and when people curse in my ear or in my face, I just want to make sure I'm physically safe. But other than that, I really could care less of the words they're choosing to use, because words have no power over any of those who have love and life and wellness. Because again, we're the, non-traumatized. So that means my brain, it's not helpless. This is very important to note, because Dr. Amy Pegan points out wellness, and actually, what does she say? She says willpower. Yeah, let me find it, because I actually forget data. So neuroception explained, willpower and motivation doesn't help a person who has that which is a body that is consistently asking the question if they're safe or not to be themselves. So I don't have that question. I'm like, look, I don't change. I'm Maria. You're breaking up with me, but I told you I don't change. Like, this was 4 years ago. This was one of the breakups that I had. So to stand firmly on the ground and still reach out and touch the sky is the essence of the spiritual process. Thank you, Sadhguru. Spiritual process are all people who are empowered. So we feel sad for those who won't be with us, because, again, while I will talk more about hypocrites and the cowards that are two-faced, unhealthy, immature, and definitely sick, for getting off of panic attacks, for getting off of things that were torturous for that poor 1-year-old and 2-year-old and 3-year-old, for getting off of anything that is completely unhealthy fear, because dysregulation has unhealthy fear, and then it only has the very low frequency of this self-righteous unhealthy anger, which is very clear again. So I try to think of how many different ways to tell you when you know your worth and you feel healthy fear and emotions. The panic attacks have me practice with the fear stuff, the sadness. I'm a girl, I cry. The anger, I get angry whenever I want and frustrated. And can I say I feel dumb sometimes, but I know I'm not, because that's why I'm an empowered one. It's like, yeah, I get when you get frustrated, you really just talk nonsense. It's not true, you get upset. It's just like when I'm having a hard time tying a shoe. So why do I feel sad for insecure people? Well, because every time there's an ascension energy, they actually don't do I'm going to be cultivating self-awareness, and I'm going to be choosing the 5 ways to healthily self-soothe myself and my 1-year-old and my 3-year-old. And so they don't actually have the peace of mind that I do. They actually don't have peace of mind at all. Okay, so why am I happy about God keeping me away from some people? Because sharpness of the intellect is not about outsmarting someone else. It means seeing life just the way it is. So when I have been informed of attachment trauma, and then I think friendship, it's not just for companionship and comfort, it is a mirror to all that you are and all that you're not. Okay, so when I have the weak people in front of me, I learned from my facade friend, I'm not gonna, do anything, because I already had one friend that I said, nope, not talking to anymore, because they disrespected me. I was beyond a bejesus of, they were in a little hate box. I said, hey God, look, I know hate is a really big word. There's these two people, they're going to be in the hate box, but I'm going to take them out when I'm ready to process all of it. True compassion. It is not about giving and taking, it is about doing what is needed. Sadhguru is awesome. So when you know all your brothers and sisters are little angels, that's because you know that all those people who are scared, they're scared, that's all. You can't do anything when people are scared of their own self. So my facade friend is the reason why once we became friends again, I yelled at them again, this time in their face. And I'm like, you lied to me again. Why did it? And then I saw, now I'm attachment trauma educated. And so that's why I feel very sad. I wanted to say that I feel bad for the insecure people. We're going to have that episode tomorrow. But I feel sad because, the brave ones choose the power of equanimity. They also choose the power of being able to know that sick, unhealthy, insecure minds are pretty much everywhere. They seem to lead. We know they don't lead. And, well, God always wins. And there's always this thing called plan. So when it comes to ascension energies, every person gets to choose the free will to process the trauma charges. When they're doing it the correct way, it's because there's not right or wrong in how you want to subjectively live, but there's a correct way that data proves with the attachment science and all of the smart ones, how you're going to heal from getting your body connected. So that's why Dr. Amy Apigan points out, please stop. It's not willpower. It's not motivation. They need someone to help them. And I'm like, yep, I got it, Dr. Amy, but you know how many are not coming to you? They just talk about the stuff. And so, okay, but putting all of this stuff aside, and with the Great Reset, it's a great reset, which I might reconsider this title, because put solar eclipse somewhere. But the reset is not something that cancels the past. So when people are whole sense of selves, we always carry our past with us. Actually, Sadhguru has a really great quote on it, and it's like the Fool. Have you ever seen the tarot? So the Fool has a little sack, and in fact, Sadhguru uses that example of the sack, not the Fool. He says your past comes with you because you'll always be able to remember. The whole fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, shame on you, or whatever. No, shame on you, shame on me. By the third time, okay, so here's the deal though with attachment trauma education. A good gut will know, okay, I will ask you the first time what's going on. I will ask you the second time what's going on. By the third time, I say, okay, now I'm beginning to see that this is a pattern. So with my teenage boyfriend, for example, by the third cheating incident, I said, look, this is with the BFFF of all times. I said, this is getting old. It's beginning to become childish. We are growing up. I have college that is coming up soon, and I need to just make up your mind. Would you want a relationship or not? 3 years. So you don't have to be in a relationship with me. And I'm not going to tell the whole story, because this is why I learned what cowards always do. And it's not just people that you are in an intimate relationship with, which, by the way, doesn't involve necessarily a boyfriend. Let me make it clear. So I need to pause, because even the polyamory community, as long as they're not securely attached, are you not poly enough? Wow, really? Okay, so amore, love. The word love means that you know how to sit, and to sit in your integrity. You transcend that which is not only your own intuition, your own illusion. Mystic, spiritual, and mindful people easily do this, the 5D collective. Because I will ask you once. I will ask you twice. It doesn't matter how I will ask you. I will present you by the third time. And I might not be perfect, but by the third time, if you still have clearly shown me the level of disrespect, like my facade friend did, the only reason is, again, I learned how to leave alone insecure people, I will know exactly what I'm being presented. Thank you, Stephen Porges. With biological, rude human being who doesn't know what the fuck's going on, so it doesn't really matter. I will cry for you. Then I will allow myself to remember that emotionally unavailable human beings don't have well-being, they don't have love, they don't have life, and you don't mean shit to any of these individuals, by the way, because they're not half safe. They're not even safe. They're just people who are actually dishonoring themselves, which is why I won't want to be near any of them. Because the minute that I would be near a human being who I know has dishonored themselves, That's why it's not something that was hard for me to not talk to my friend, because he disrespected our friendship by being like a buffoon. Today I know how to explain to you, when people are insecure, they don't know how to talk to you in your face. That's not something impressive. They do know how to talk to you behind your back. They do know how to make up really amazing, interesting roles that they have, and then they continue to ignore what is now a trending topic. And they ignore it because they just use their mouth to say they know what they're talking about, and then you watch as they don't know how to turn the other cheek and to remember what Jesus said: the kingdom of God is within every one of your brothers and sisters, and to continue to be blessed, to believe without seeing, all that, again, and not to play God. I don't know if he ever mentioned it, but I'm pretty sure I read to you somewhere about that. The self-righteous people, they get on their high horse and they forget that they're not it. And then, the part about when they forget they're not it is that they forget that God knows better. And that means that there's a plan from the smallest to the biggest, and this is why we don't play God or divinity. Those who are intelligent ones with the enlightened ones, and I'm bringing in my mystic with my human hat, so I know what Dharma is, and I know what it looks like, and I know what choice points are. And what fascinates my mind beyond a shadow of a doubt is every time I've noticed where choice points were made by groups of people in specific places that could have made a different choice, that would have, sliding doors. It's fascinating, because I'm like, wow, how would that have gone? But then I'm like, no, it's going the exact way it needs to be going, because now I'm also wondering, how is this going to play out for the very group of people who I know can't, in any way, shape, or form, handle being looked away from. If you look away from me, my confidence will be shattered. So I'm not going to make it into that big of a deal, because I actually am wondering, I don't know how individuals who are insecure handle that which is called a person losing complete, utter respect for you. And not because they want to, because you don't disrespect a piece of life, but it's basically, humanly speaking, an emotionally immature person. I have answers to how they can heal. I have answers to what they will become. I have answers of what they are. I will feel bad for the grandiose ones. I will feel bad for the other ones. And then I will feel sad and not bad because I'm insulting them. By consciously being aware that they do have choice points, they lack self-awareness. No, they lack the desire to be self-regulating, accountable, aware human beings, but they don't choose it. As Dr. Daniel Fox would present, they have mustard on their chin. Everybody's pointing out to them, hey, you got mustard, one way, shape, or form. Not in the martyr superior blamer way. No, in a way of your maladaptive patterns of behavior will seep through every single one of your encounters. My facade friend is a perfect example. He has only me as a friend who cares about him. And then he has the person who loves him unconditionally, who I won't reveal any of his private story because it's not right, but that was a choice point too. From that moment forth, my friend became a weakling even more. I can't even tell him he's an actual asshole anymore without me thinking it. I think he's taking it the wrong way now, so I think I need to stop. It's not a joke anymore, so I don't want to be upsetting, because, insecure people, they just want a hug and to feel that they're good and that they did okay, and they're already complaining about their life and the way it's going, what they didn't get, and then they're continuing, and it's like, okay, I'm just going to hug you. So I actually feel for the insecure minds, and I do know they have options, though. That's why there's no Lucifer monsters in any of them. They actually all can be, if they wanted to, heading on over to someone like Pat Ogden, someone like Bezel van der Kolk. So when you know your worth and you feel healthy fear, you know that buffoons are not scary. And then you feel sad for the ones who stay in these illusions. There's children who get sold in countries that they don't need to be being sold. But then again, I don't know what environment they're in. And then again, there's people who want to walk around with their trauma charges continuing to. So as you can tell, the number one thing any person can do is to take responsibility for who they are. As you walk a walk and talk a talk, like Jesus taught for me, Holy Spirit and God, I continue to know exactly why there's choice points. And we're doing Dharma. So people don't actually have the capacity, the mystics I'm talking about, the spiritual bypassers, to understand what I'm about to say, because it's very clear as they present to you scenarios of battlefields and monsters and da-da-da-da. Okay, so the process of dissolving karma is automatic. since our planet is in this 5D dimension from the mystic spiritual perspective, but also we don't ever repeat the exact same past. The only ones who think that it's the exact same are the same ones who don't know or don't notice the fine details. I, as an emotionally, mentally, physically intelligent, curious person who doesn't set anything down in stone because I don't know everything, I watch as it plays out, and then I know at a certain point what the choice point is and what the outcome is going to be, which is always going to be expansion, because life always wins. And that's because anything that is of a low frequency is like Diego's family. They backstab each other. They're all insecure. They can't handle if one of them is doing better than the other. So they're always going to actually pull the wool over them, over their eyes, lie, do all of this very meaningless stuff to a person who knows that if there's one thing a person who is able to be conscious of is, as long as I have 2 hands and 2 feet, breathing air, got water, got food, it'll be okay. 1-year-old, it'll be okay. So even an atheist can do this. I'm not an atheist though, I have God, but I know of atheists who are securely attached, healthy self-worth, securely all, okay? So I'm just saying compassionate. So these are the smart ones I learned from. And so they're functional or child adults, which is why they tell you forgiveness is not about you allowing somebody to have a past. It's because you know how to process the charge that came up. And so I really feel sad for insecure people because they will physically, I don't know what, but inside of them, every time you're rejecting them, they die a little bit more inside. And they really don't know how to handle their fear. And so my facade friend taught me his insecurity when we got to become friends again. And that was when he was like, so, I don't know how you do this. And I said, what, be a friend? Because friends don't leave each other to hang and dry. And yeah, I was pissed at you, but, we talked about it. I thought that my very serious conversation made a difference. It didn't, because my friend is like the other insecure, sick. They're not sick, but are they sick? So the sick word, I used it in a playful way, and I know some people will be bothered by it, but I'm thinking of the bigger people who are actually sick, and like people who get off of panic attacks. That's sickening to me, because I'm thinking of the child who didn't want to be getting off of any of that, which is something. And then I'm thinking of people who talk to me about spectrums, and I'm just thinking, you know what, a spectrum, you don't get off on a panic attack. That's just something you don't do because someone's having a suffering moment in that moment, and you're not going in your ventral vagal state. Instead, you're doing something completely different, which is completely awful. And yeah, we don't have to read minds because we read nervous systems, because that's what mammals do. So, I always knew you can't hide yourself. It's common sense, but some people don't have common sense because they don't actually think that they can be noticed. And when you do know that we're all a frequency, I remember when I recognized the timbre, it was because I had heard it from my facade friend. And I still remember learning about what I didn't know. And I'm still very grateful to be an attachment trauma educated person who can spot mile away all these people who are not using any of the ascension energies to do much with their body brain. They sure as heck are entertaining as they make up stories, and it's disrespectful in my personal subjective opinion of what is the oversoul's journey, because they give each other characters and they call each other avatars, and then they continue to talk about their loved ones as if they're in a TV show, which means they're not actually feeling deeply what they experienced every day of their life. They're making it into a caricature, and that's ridiculous. When I share my stories, I make fun of it because I know there's woo-woo pseudoscience, but it's not funny. In fact, there's a person like, why don't you write a book about your stories, all the mystic stuff? I'm like, because it's my personal life. But still, I'm like, well, I'll think about it. If I can find a sweet spot for Maria, maybe I will. But it's not just a story. Even though I can admit that science will say, well, yeah, it is. It's all in your imagination. And I'll say, well, there are things you don't know, but still, I'm sure you're just going to say it's coincidence. And once again, that's when somebody wants to talk over you, tell you what your life is, not admit you're not a mystic, you're not spiritual, and leave it alone, and allow yourself to be the science one who knows, I'm science, I want explanation, I'm not spiritual. I'm totally cool with that. You don't have to be spiritual. You can be science. But respecting spiritual ones, which is what I got mad about with my facade friend. Been talking to you the whole 3 years about all this stuff, and you don't believe in God. Like, wow, that's just like, what the fuck? I was so upset. And so when it comes to ascension, meeting the spiritual bypassers is very unfascinating, because then you have to say, we're not anointed. You realize we are actually the lucky ones, right? Like, we have the relationship with God. You do know what's on the other side, correct? Like, suffering wise, not in this other way that it's not funny to think of the ones who are on the other end of the coin, because they're having people make the choice, the free will choice of how are you going to behave. So you can't expect those 0 8-year-old to be able to make these decisions, which is what some people actually think. Instead, no, a 0 8-year-old is a codependent human being. They need to have that which is a regulating nervous system, and then they need to have someone else who can support them. And then, if they're lucky that they do aliveness, now that they're adolescents, they get to deal with all the other ones. So it's like a really in-depth aspect that those who want to make it seem like they can with philosophy, it's not that simple. So at the end of the day, though, we don't have to give them a green or a red pass. We just know when the ascension energies are about, you can choose how to expand. And so with a moment like this, it's expansion time. And it doesn't mean good or bad. It means, what are you going to get to do with your mind and with your heart and with your entire 24 hours as you keep moving forward. Yeah, we don't do ego, death, dark night of soul, all that other stuff that the 4D like to dress up their experiences. It's we have sadness, we have anger, we have fear, and we have people that we can talk about it with, and we choose healthy, self-soothing, and that's because we choose health. So obviously we all have our little vices, but we all know how to do things moderately and to actually grow old together. Yay! And we'll see what happens to the insecure ones. I know that there will be the laggards, and so we will wait. It's not time yet, but we're going to dissolve, as we're always dissolving karma and moving more and more into Dharma. So it's all good. Na. Knew that I would. Yes, divinity descends because overflowing in our humanity. So good. Restored, embodied, self-aware, accountable, regulating. Dun. People, join us, and we'll be back with more. Have a good one.